Have you been looking for that one thing to elevate your smart home setup? Then surprisingly, this could be what you're looking for. This is the Aqara Camera Hub G3. This isn't just your typical pan-tilt camera. It's an all-in-one device that doubles as a smart home hub that's ready to integrate seamlessly with your other smart home devices. In this review, I'll be going over everything from camera hardware and setup to a battery of testing. If you're curious about how this camera hub combo can transform your smart home, stick around. I'm Wanderer001. Let's get into it. Starting things off, we're going to look at the general hardware of this camera hub. You're looking at a camera that is 4.8 inches high, has a width of 3.35 inches, and a depth of 2.6 inches. On the front of the camera right now, you might notice the sleepy-eyed face that our little cat camera has here. I want to say, don't worry, one, this is just a silicone topper and can be removed if you want to. It does collect dust and cat hair quite a bit, so if you live in a pet-centric house, that might be something that you want to do. The face up front here is actually just a visual cue letting you know that the camera is in privacy mode, which I kind of like. It's a cute way of letting you know, hey, the camera's no longer looking at you. But if we look in the mouth area of this camera, that's actually a micro SD card slot for local storage of your footage. The Aqara G3 Hub can accept up to a 128 gigabyte micro SD card for local storage. Now, if I roll the camera forward, here we can see our lens, which is a 2K 2304 by 1296 resolution and has a viewing angle of 110 degrees. That's pretty good considering it's a single lens in the front here. And the frames per second that you'll get from the video from this are about 20-ish. It depends on the setting because you can lower your video resolution to preserve bandwidth and whether it's in the daytime or night. Speaking of nighttime, on either side of our front-facing lens here, there is a total of 8 IR lights. There are 4 on each side, 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. And these IR lights are great because one, they do illuminate quite a ways out, but they're also the very hard to see IR lights. They're not the blaring red lights. Now, if you don't think the camera viewing angle is wide enough, do not worry, this is a pan-tilt camera. You have a horizontal motion range of 340 degrees and a vertical range of 45, with 30 being able to look up and 15 looking down. And for most cases, that has been enough for me. There have been a few spots where my cats get a little closer to the camera and I can't see them because I can't look down anymore. But just know you can change your placement of the camera to work around issues like that. If we move to either side of our lens up front here, we do have a microphone as well as an ambient light sensor. And then as we come down a little more, we have our LED status light ring as well as our sync button that does act as a button that we can press. As I mentioned before, at the top there is this rubber silicone hood. We can remove this if we want to make this a little less playful and want to have something that looks a little more like a camera. If we move things around to the back, we do have our speaker right here, and on the bottom of our rotation motor, we have our USB-C style power port. And with this, you get a over 6 foot length of cable and a power brick that make placement of this much simpler. If we come to the bottom, we could see we have our standard mount option. So if you have anything like a tripod mount like I have, it'll fit right in there with no problem. You also have a large rubber silicone ring around the bottom to help it from moving around. This could be a little better. It's not as sticky as I would have liked it to be to help keep this in place, but that's not that big of a deal as long as it's not in an area that's going to get bounced around. The camera itself can operate between a temperature range of 14 degrees Fahrenheit up to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. This is an indoor camera, so those are pretty extreme for this to be able to function. The camera itself supports both the 2.4 gigahertz as well as the 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi spectrum, as well as Zigbee 3.0. That is how you can have a hub built into a camera, because this supports the Zigbee protocol and acts as a Zigbee hub for all your other devices. In fact, this camera alone, acting as a Zigbee hub, can support up to 128 other Zigbee compatible Aqara, in this case, devices, which is remarkable when you think about the size of this camera hub. But the camera hub is not the only thing that we get as part of the package. So let's take a look at what else we get. User manual, power plug, power cable, and then right here we have the Aqara camera itself. Quickly open that and comes with a silicone rabbit ear for the top. Now that we know what else comes with our camera hub, what's next? Well, this is a smart device. That means that there is a setup process. Let me show you what it was like to set up. This will be setup of the Aqara Camera Hub G3. First things first, you're going to want to make sure that you download the Aqara app, and then we'll power on the device and follow directions on screen. Device is powered on, and there is a green light right there, kind of more orange at the moment. We'll come over to the Aqara app, select the plus sign in the upper corner, and watch the Aqara camera spin around a little bit. Come back over.
Ready to connect, please open the Aqara Home app.
Oh, it's just giving you directions. It said ready to connect, please open the app. So we're here. We're going to add an accessory, and here we go. We want to add the G3, got to agree to terms of service. We already did here the I'm ready to connect, so we're just going to go next. And we have the ability to do either 2.4 gigahertz or 5 gigahertz. So we are going to come over here and we are going to change our camera. And after plugging in my Wi-Fi information, a QR code is now up on the screen, which I will have to show to the camera. Over here really quick.
Wi-Fi connecting, just wait.
It said Wi-Fi connecting, please wait. There's a little box on the bottom that says, if you hear that, hit here to continue. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to give this a second to connect itself. It is flashing blue there on the front with the ring. And over
the account is bound successfully. Welcome aboard.
Does account bound successfully? Welcome aboard. And then here we go. We've got accessory name, location. We're going to leave those alone for now. We can change the name if we wanted to, and then we can select an icon. I'm sure we can do all of that later. And then we can add a card to the home page of the app. We're going to say yes, and then it gives us this, and we're going to say done. There we go. This is our G3, and there it's showing a little feed right there. And then right there, it's all set up. So you can either tap or tap, and we're good. One of the great things about the G3 Hub, as I'm going to refer to it, is the level of compatibility that it has with other systems. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of cameras that I've tested are compatible with Google Home and Alexa, and the G3 is no different. However, if you're looking for an Apple HomeKit compatible device, then the G3 Hub here is worth considering. That's only a small amount of the extras that you can do with this camera hub. The rest, well, that's all done through the application. Let's see. This is the Aqara application for the Aqara Camera Hub G3. Starting at the front page here, this is completely editable, we'll call it. If we come down here, we can select the edit, and we can move things around, or we can remove them entirely if we don't want them here. Simply selecting edit. We can change the name if we wanted to, and then save. We can also personalize kind of the image. We can upload something if we wanted to. We can cancel or save from this page. I'm going to come back. Starting at the top, we have home, and then I can edit the dashboard, change the dashboard management, secure monitoring, or home board. So this will give you, hey, here's weather, disarm your alert system, and then the camera itself. Or we can come over to the security monitoring area, which is useful if you have one camera, which will allow you to disarm and arm your security system. And then live view. So if I tap right here, this will bring up the live view of my singular camera here. Or if I wanted to, I can scrub back through everything. You can see it's orange for the cloud, indicating that I don't have cloud storage. I'm going to pause that because a lot of this we actually can access from here. Now I can select the icon right here, which will bring up a floating version of this. And in fact, if I shrink this down, it will live outside of the application. But to see everything we can do with the G3 Hub, I'm going to select the icon itself. That's going to bring me in. Here we could see the name of my camera. We could see the bit rate that we're currently looking at. I can double tap and it will zoom in. There is my cat just hanging out on the couch down there. You'll see that there is a pet icon in the lower left-hand corner. That comes into play a little later. I'll explain that. Here we have an indicator for privacy mode. If I select that, the camera will turn itself off. And in fact, the camera lens itself will rotate, letting you know it's not active actively recording anything. Here we have a camera icon. That's a quick snapshot, so that takes a picture of whatever's in the current live feed. To the right of that, we have our record. If I select that, that will record everything that's happening in the live feed. So if there was motion happening, then that would be recorded as well. I can stop that, and it is saving them to the album. I'll show you that a little later. To the right of our record, we have our two-way talk. If I turn that on, my camera is now talking to my cat, and if we look at him, he might be wondering what's going on and why he is not being fed yet. We're gonna turn that off to not bother him too much. And then we have our pause button. If I select that, it will pause the live feed, requiring me to press it again to start play, and then it establishes a connection. Now we're looking at a live feed again. Coming down, we have our infrared remote control. Right now I don't have that set up, but if I wanted to, I could set this up as like an IR blaster for a TV, DVR, lots of options here. That's because this is not just a camera, this is also a hub, which is just crazy when you think about it. In the middle here, we have our controls, so I can move the camera around. So if I aim this all the way down, that's the end of its movement. I do wish it had a notification letting you know, hey, I can't go down any further. If I swipe on the screen, you can see that there is movement that you can do without having to use the toggle, but you do have a directional pad there, which makes things a little easier. You have your predefined positions. So you have centermost, leftmost, rightmost, topmost, and bottommost. If I go to my centermost, it will recenter things. If I wanted to add, I select the plus sign here, say, hey, this is the location, and then hit save. Now, this is going to be at the location that you had it at. So make sure you have it where you want. I could select edit, and this will allow me to edit this location. So I can move things around, or if I come back in here, I can move things around if I had multiple predefined locations. Now, this is all under our controls. If I move over to our advanced, this is what that icon means. So the dog and cat tracking means that if a cat wanders through frame, the camera will actually follow them. You can also have this for human tracking. However, notice you can only do one at a time. You have the ability to cruise. So this will allow you to set up locations for it to cruise to. So it's similar to presets, except it will kind of pan to those locations within a 5-hour time frame. We have our face detection, which you can turn on and off and use with tracking humans or cats. You also have your gesture identification, but notice you can either do faces or you can do gestures. And the gestures will allow you to take a recording, take a snapshot with specific hand gestures, which is interesting in concept, but I haven't found myself really using them. We have our more right here because, well, there's a lot of extras that we can do, but this is actually the settings for the camera that's just accessible from this more. We'll get to that a little later. And then come down to our timeline. Here we can see this camera is recording 24/7, so I can scroll back through stuff to find what I'm looking for. I can, still from here, record what it's seeing, snapshot, and call. Now I can scrub for an event. Notice I can't filter for an event, but I can go back to specific days through my timeline. If I select album, this is going to bring you to two locations, screenshots and recordings. These are the things that I did with you where I took a picture and I took a recording. Right there, I'm taking a recording. From here, I can delete, play pause, or share. And if I wanted to, I can select delete and select multiple items to delete. And then we have our published videos. These are triggers that have happened. So this is actually me walking through, getting things together. There I'm coming out of the basement. Same thing as before, except now we have a download button right up there that we could select to download this clip from the camera. But that's human. I can do face detection. Don't have face detection on currently. Abnormal sound detection, motion detection. Well, since I have the people turned on, it's not going to do that. I have my animal detection. So now it's breaking down animals. And here, if we come in here, here's an example of animal tracking. And the camera is following him. And since he is a diabetic, I like having this camera there so it can track where he is. We have our alerts, automations. I don't have anything set up for those, but that's where all of that is located. We have our services. If I come over to here, this is going to be for things to purchase. So 90-day event history, correlated events, security events. And here it's going to let you know plan and pricing, and I don't use that. So it's there if that's what you're interested in. Back to our advanced, we have our more options here for the settings, or 3 dots in the corner there also bring us to our settings for this. If I select this icon right here, this will allow me to change the name, its location, and then some basic information, user guide, FAQ, device privacy, manufacturer, and then extra information for your firmware. However, if we want device card, this will allow us to change the image as well as the icon for the camera in the application. We also have the ability to change its default room area. Coming back, we have our cloud storage. Now it says I can get it for free because currently they're running a special, but I don't want that. I'm using local storage, which here you can see the status of the SD card, the space used, what type of recording mode I'm doing. So I'm doing continuous. I could do event recording, or I could select stop recording right from here. I have loop recording, meaning that the oldest files will be overridden once everything is done. And then I have NAS storage, if attached to a NAS, which I'm not, but it's nice that it's there. Coming down, we have albums. So this is another way that we can access our albums from before. We have exposed to Matter, because yes, this is a Matter capable device. So not only is it a Aqara hub, you can turn it into a Matter hub as well. Child devices, well, I only have the one Aqara device. I don't have child devices for this. Network information would show me my network information, how I'd be able to change my network. Firmware update, well, if I need to, I could select that and click check for firmware. If you did have a firmware update, there would be a red dot there. You have related items and devices. So if I select this, it's going to show you, hey, scenes that it's attached to. Here we have my logs. Don't really have that many logs for this camera, but there you can see enable, stop. This is pretty much all while I was just doing this with you. You can add a home shortcut and then remove this device, that big accessory. And that is everything that we can do for the Aqara Camera Hub G3 in the Aqara app. As you saw, there is surprisingly a lot that you can do in the application for the G3. Is it the best looking application? No, I do feel that they shoved a lot in there, and it could be time for an UI overhaul. Granted, they did change the camera controls shortly before I made this review video, but the rest of the application, in my opinion, could be due for an overhaul. Now, one thing I like to do with cameras that are constantly plugged in is test actual power usage, because if this is going to be part of my smart home, I want to know how much power it's going to consume to monitor my home and act as a central access point for me. In the case of the G3 Hub here, idling, meaning it's just connected to Wi-Fi and it's in its privacy mode state, it uses 2.8 watts of power. If the camera is on during the daytime, it uses 2.9 watts of power. And if the camera is rotating in the daytime, it uses 4.5 watts of power. Now, at night when the IR lights are on, it uses 4.3 watts of power. And when rotating at night with the IR lights on, it uses 6 watts of power. That 6 watts is a bit of a jump, but unless you're tracking animals or people and you just have this stationary, you're generally not going to see that level of power usage for a consistent amount of time. Moving on, other things that I like to test aside from power, well, that's what the camera's meant to do, and that's record things, both audio and visually. For audio, considering the size of the speaker and the microphones up front, you get good audio from both the camera itself going to the application as well as from the application to the camera. However, I have noticed that there is a slight motor sound if the video you're recording has the camera tracking somebody left to right or up and down. It's not terribly noticeable, but it's there, and I want you to be aware of that before you see my sample audio clips. See if you can hear it for yourself.
Audio test. Aqara. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Test 1, test 2, test 3, and test.
Audio test. Aqara G3 Hub. Sally sells seashells by the seashore. Peter Piper picked a pack of pickled peppers. Cat meow. Test 1, test 2, test 3, more meowing, and test. Going this way. Box around me. It does look like it's looking just good. I'm going to go over in the corner here. Yeah. That's following. That's good. All right.
Moving on, video. I will have a link in the corner there where you can see the raw video footage in its own video, because the video that you'll see here is downscaled for this 1080 video. So if you want to see that 2K video, over there in the corner. What I will say is during the day, the image is sharp and there is no ghosting whatsoever, whether it's stationary or tracking a target. And the camera will actually look up to a human face, which not a lot of other cameras do, and that's because of the built-in localized AI that this camera has. Now, do I think it's a little aggressive in its upward tilt? Yes, but the fact that it does that at all is leaps and bounds above the competition. In low light, meaning I'm just using my interior lighting situation, which isn't great, images are okay. There is a little pixelation in darker areas of the video, and pixelation is more noticeable when tracking mode is on, but the image is still okay for seeing people or pets in your video. At night with the IR, for targets moving through frame, there is pixelation around that moving target, and ghosting is noticeable on targets that are further away from the camera. Tracking targets increases the pixelation all around, but when the camera is stationary and there's not a lot of movement, the image is very clear and sharp, and the IR lights shine out a decent distance from the camera, which still make this acceptable for using at night in darker places. But you did hear that I was pointing out a little bit of a con in those pixelation and ghosting images that you got with night vision with this camera. And although the camera has a lot of things that I like about it, there are a few other cons that I wanted to bring to your attention. First being, you cannot change to IR mode manually. A lot of other cameras that I've tested, you have this ability. Also, with the IR mode, it's a little more aggressive than I would like for the changeover between day and night than I would like. I was in a room that was still brightly lit, but because part of my video was dark, it decided it wanted to move into IR mode. As I mentioned before, pixelation while moving, even in good light, can be concerning for some, but check out the non-downscaled video to know for sure for yourself. And one thing that I brought up in the application was the smart gestures, and for the life of me, I could not get them to work or do anything. I gestured okay as I did the boom, I did the boom. The green light popped up letting me know that it registered that it saw them, but I couldn't make it do anything. So for me, the addition of the hand gestures is nice to put on paper, but in practice, I was not able to get them to do what I wanted. Is that a deal breaker? For me, not really, because hand gestures are kind of gimmicky to me, but that might be different for you. Overall, the Aqara Camera Hub G3 is so much more than just a pan-tilt camera. It's an IR blaster, it's a Zigbee hub, and has more compatibility with other smart home ecosystems and voice assistants than just about any other camera that I've tried. Because of that, I am willing to look past some of the shortcomings in the video quality when compared to other options. In fact, I have been actually sitting on this camera for some time now, as I've actually been using it in my smart home setup to the point that I never got around to actually reviewing it. If that doesn't tell you my feelings about the Aqara G3, I don't know what will. If you are looking for a well-rounded workhorse of a pan-tilt camera, I can strongly recommend it. If this sounds like the pan-tilt camera you've been looking for, I will have a link where you could pick one up for yourself in the description area below. If you appreciate the time and effort that goes into making comprehensive videos like this, make sure to hit that like button to help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here and want to be notified of my next review, hit that subscribe button. Still not sure if this is the right indoor pan-tilt camera for you? On screen now, you'll see 2 other reviews that I've done to help you make a more informed decision for yourself.